Hello and welcome to the Power Hour with Dare to Scale. You join me, Varsha, and
me, Evan. Hello.
Hello. Core products. We talked about in our series of Sandbox. We talked about the why, the who, because last week we were joined by our expert in building buyer personas, Surbhi Dedia. And there were some brilliant conversations that followed that particular episode. We got a lot of comments. We got a lot of insights that you as listeners were continuing to have over the next 2 weeks. So that was brilliant. Keep those thoughts coming, because today we're going to be talking about the next step in the Sandbox, which is your core product. What do you sell? Whether it is a service packaged as a product or it is an actual physical product, say a pair of reading glasses or this blue pen or whatever it is that you sell. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So let's begin. Evan, before we begin though, as I usually do, I will want to take a little train back into our episode of 2 weeks ago. Tell me, what were your biggest takeaways from that entire buyer persona conversation?
It's very, very simple in that the biggest takeaway was being able to identify and recognize the customer that you essentially want to deal with. It's an easier way to establish rapport, for example. So when that customer or that person is in front of you, you readily recognize them and you can speak their language. So that was one of the hugest takeaways. There were actually two. The other one was, and it's an adjunct of that, where because you know who and what and where, you know where to find them, you know where they hang out. So it makes the entire process of actually finding that customer that little bit easier. How about you?
Everything that you said, and the biggest thing for me, as it always is whenever we go through a buyer persona conversation, is about really getting to know your customer as a person. What are their wants? What are their needs? What are their likes, dislikes? What are their ambitions, their dreams? What also happens, and this is not something that we went into a great deal of detail, but that's the depth of which this entire conversation about who can go to is to really see what their life would be if the product is missing. It is a need. They're looking to get something, to buy something to fill a need. And if that need is not filled, what happens? That's a different conversation. And I think, Evan, that's a great subject for us to talk about maybe in the next episode. How about that?
Yeah, maybe. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that for me was the biggest takeaway. That and that actually brings us to what we're going to be talking about today. What are their wants and needs as a customer, and how are you as the seller or the maker or the service provider matching that need and want? Evan, I cut you off. What were you saying?
Look, it's actually quite interesting. Look, part of this discussion, the core product and what you're making, or the pain that you're solving for your customer, is really about the result that your customer is looking for. And at the outset, based on the who that we talked about before, remember that your customer is actually your hero, right? It's about the customer. It's about them, not about you.
Yeah.
So when you're matching or dealing with a pain for a customer, it's about the customer for sure, and the result that they are actually looking for. So there's that subtle shift. So today's discussion will definitely be from the customer's perspective. You know, it's not about you and your business. Like we like to say in the coaching space, you know, check the ego at the door. It's not about you. It's actually about, when we're coaching, it's about the business. But when we're talking about the product, it's about the customer.
It is indeed, because after all, who are you building the product for? It's the customer. And the better you get to know the customer, the better your product is going to be designed. So let's continue this conversation. You're in for a treat, because we're going to go into something that is fairly well known. And if you haven't been introduced to that, well, here's a chance. Get your pen and paper ready, because today we're going to be digging deeper into Philip Kotler's 5 levels of product. So let's go straight to it. Thank you for joining us. There are comments coming in already, and it says LinkedIn user. Again, I apologize because I can't see your name, but thank you for joining us. And thank you for joining everybody who has joined us today from whichever part of the world you have. Welcome to the Dare to Scale. Oh, Evan.
Yes.
I meant to say this right in the beginning, and I want to give a shout out to our entire team who works in the background to make this Power Hour happen. So thank you very much, team. This wouldn't be possible every 2 weeks without your support.
Totally.
Big shout out to the Dare to Scale team. Thank you. Okay, let's get on to the 5 levels of product. Now, Evan, what are your thoughts, first of all, before we go into the 5 levels of product? How would you describe the need and the want of a customer?
Let me just take a step back before I answer that.
Okay.
There's a couple of really great quotes that we normally work with, and it sort of sets the scene quite nicely.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So take Brian Tracy, brilliant at what he does. And I'm going to just read his quote. I can never remember it off the top of my head exactly. So approach each customer with the idea of helping him or her solve a problem or achieve a goal, not of selling a product or a service. So again, it comes back to that hero's journey, so to speak. It's about the customer and it's the result that they are looking for.
Nice.
And this is a quote from a book. This is Bloom and Conti from the Inside Advantage.
Mm-hmm.
The primary mistakes that companies make in describing what they sell is to focus on the benefits and the features.
Yep.
Forgetting that it's actually about the value and the result.
Totally.
So,
very nice.
And again, I just want to touch on there's a great book. It's Spin Selling. I don't know if you've come across that recently. But that's partly more a marketing kind of a discussion, but it's important because SPIN it's an acronym. So SPIN is about the situation, P is about the problem, and I is about the implication. And you actually touched on that, Washa, where what happens if you don't address the problem or don't get the result that you want? What happens then?
Yeah.
And the N in SPIN is about the need. So this is where your product comes in and you're addressing that result that the customer is looking for.
Yeah.
So again, let's just wind that back. You were asking about needs and wants. So the important thing here is a need is your very base level result that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And the want is when you start adding additional requirements to that particular product or service. But basically, it's the need and the wants that work together. Okay.
So, the LinkedIn user who says, well, summarize who's joined in. That is Surbi. Surbi, welcome again to the show. How lovely to have you right here. Keep sharing because I know this is also a pet topic for you. So keep sharing your thoughts over here as we continue into describing the core product and actually customizing it for you, the customer. So Evan, I really like that. And Spin Selling is a wonderful book, and I know you had picked it up and you were reading it, and you were having some brilliant ahas over there. So the need and the want is now described. So the need is, for me, it's very simple. The need is a lack of something. That's why I need something. I need to write something, and I don't have a pen.
So I need to wash my clothes or something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So my want is I'm looking for a pen. It's as simple as that. If I don't have a pen in my office, I will go buy a pen. So when I go buy a pen, what am I fulfilling? I'm fulfilling the need. At that stage, my only want is to have a pen in my hand where I can scribble some notes or I can write something. Yeah?
Totally. Yep.
So does that then kind of describe your base level product, if you will, your
absolutely
core
entry
product.
level, yeah.
Your
and
entry
look,
level product.
So in terms of the want, which is a sort of level up, you would actually like the pen to work reliably, not leave blotches all over the paper kind of thing.
No.
So you're still writing, you're still doing your thing.
Hold on, you're jumping a few levels over here.
I like to jump.
So we just talked about the absolute core product. That's your first level. That's your core product. I need something to write. I will go get a pen. Now, I could actually just go get the refill inside. Yeah, I don't think you get refills anymore, do you? Because those days are gone anyway. So you could really just get a base level pen and you scribble and your job's done. Now, then you come to the next level product, which is a generic product. Yeah. So this is, you have 5 different, still basic level. It's your standard blue pen. Any company, it's your standard blue pen. That's basically your generic product. Then we get into the expected product. Now, what do you expect when you buy a pen? And this is really good. I'm glad we're talking about the pen because it's just here. But there are a couple of more examples that I want to dig into. So, Evan, what do you think? Shall we continue with the pen, or shall we continue with? Yeah. Okay. So
the
what
core
is the
benefit you want is-
expectation?
Yeah, core benefit is you want to be able to write. Super.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be pencil, could be pen, could be anything, but basically you're choosing a pen. Great. So
Yep.
you've defined what the generic product is that you're looking for.
Yep.
Like you say, then the next level is, so core benefit, generic product, and then your expected product.
Mm-hmm.
You expect it to work reliably. You expect it to go
Yes.
for longer than, the giveaway pens. It's like when you're flying somewhere or whatever, the giveaway pens, they last
Yep.
for about 3 or 4 days because there's so little ink in there. It really is a disposable pen. You
Yep.
want something that lasts a little bit longer,
Mm-hmm.
So the expectation is it works, and it works reliably and does exactly what you want.
Yep. And the expectation, I think, also would be for it to not leak. I don't want inky fingers.
That'd be nice.
I'd like a cap that I can put together, close it. Tresica says, so yeah, what is the expectation? Is a good quality writing instrument. Yeah, perfect.
And while I'm not nerdy, I want to be able to put it in my pocket without a pocket protector and all that sort of
That's
stuff.
the one. I want to go back to Tresica's comment over here. So this is interesting. So now she's not describing a pen. It's a good quality writing instrument. So then it could be anything. It could be a pencil.
Could be a fountain pen.
It could be a fountain pen.
Who knows what a fountain pen is?
Yes. Well, I'm sure you still get fountain pens. That's a good
Of
point.
course we
Anyway,
do, but
we
it's just
digress.
interesting.
We digress. So let's keep to the pen, or shall we actually go on
No,
to?
we'll get to the other examples because we have more animated discussions with those. So let's.
We do. Okay. So what's the expectation is for it to write a little longer than a few sentences, for it to not leak, for it to actually have a top that you can close and be able to put away, for the ink to not dry out. This is interesting. It reminds me of the time when a couple of years ago, we were working, and we were in Alaska, and we were working, and I had taken exactly this set of colored pens. I usually have at least 12 colored pens all around me because I like to take notes in different colors. So this ideally takes us into that next level, but I'll hold on for a second. One of my basic expectations, which I didn't even know, was for me to be able to travel with these pens and be able to write. Guess what happened? I absolutely couldn't write with these pens over there because it was so ridiculously cold, even inside a heated room, that everything dried out. And sure enough, we flew back in about 12 hours. These pens were good as new.
They didn't dry, they just froze.
Yeah, but they just froze. So anyway,
and
I do digress.
Add context to that.
Yeah.
It's not a standard biro or
It's not a
pen.
standard
It's actually a gel pen.
Totally.
Right?
That's the one.
But that's an augmented product.
That is. So yes. So what comes after that? So now we talk about the augmented product. So what happens in the augmented product? I don't want a blue pen. I want a purple colored pen. Is that an augmented product, or is this just a different product? Evan, what do you think?
I think a gel.
Hold on. Those who are listening, I'd like to hear from you as well. When we're talking about an augmented product, what do you understand by that? We're talking about, the whole time we've been talking about this blue pen. And now, when we're talking about an augmented product, I said, I'd like a purple pen. Is that an augmented product? Yes. Or is this a different product? Tell us in your notes. Evan, over to you again. You were saying.
I can't really remember. Look, I think it's very much about the augmented product being the gel pen. Because look, if you go into even just the supermarket to the stationery section, there are far
Yeah.
more standard biros or whatever you want to call them, and there's fewer gel pens. In fact, you found some gel pens in Alaska.
I did.
Exactly, and you brought those back.
I did.
So those are definitely that sort of level above. And
Right there. Yeah.
the other thing is, and it's not just only about the ink itself. It could be, you know, some of the pens have like different molding and different grips and stuff on them. So then it slightly becomes more ergonomic. It's, you know, it's not your standard standard quality writing instrument, if that makes sense. So you then enjoy using it. And remember, there's different thicknesses in the nib. So depending on your needs as to what it is, it could be the 0.5, which are harder to write with. 0.7 is good. 1 mil, or you're starting to use it like a crayon kind of thing, you know. So there's a whole bunch of different things and different needs. So that's where you, depending on the, and again, it's so much of it comes down to, it's almost the opinion of the customer. Because what I think is an augmented product, you might not.
Yep.
So we'll have a discussion about that later too.
We will, and there is a comment coming on, and before I read that out, what would you call these? These are all presents, and only because people around me know I like blingy things. So is this an augmented product? These are pens with crystals on them. So they're different colored crystals, but these are crystal pens. Does it add to the ability of the pen to be able to write, or does it add a different layer of luxury to it?
Well, that's a good question. And yes, there are some comments coming in. And the last step in Kotler's model, and remember, this is an economist, right? They like to define all sorts of things in ways that, you know, normal people may not be able to understand.
Yeah.
So his last level of product is potential. A potential product. And it's like, what does it even really mean, you know? So we'll come up with some other examples on that. But to me, because I know one of the pens you have there is branded. So the potentiality of that, it's sort of, it becomes more, in my opinion, it's more personalized, more in keeping with how you feel about yourself while you're holding the pen rather than just the message, you know. So it starts becoming a different part of the equation.
Yep.
So
what are some other comments coming in? Let's get some readers or listeners comments in here. An augmented product is an additional benefit or special service supporting the main product. Okay. Companies use an augmented product to provide their clients with additional value for free, says, again, LinkedIn user, and I think this could be Surbi. And Urvashi then says, an additional features or benefits would make it an augmented product to me, not so much the color. That's a good point, because I would totally agree over there, because if it's a different color, this is a different product. It's not the same product. So yeah, this is good. Now that we have roughly sort of defined the 5 levels, let's pick up another example, because that will then address what I think it is to be, or the LinkedIn user is talking about, the augmented product. So let's go and let's talk about a car. Yeah, we know what a car is, and we know what a car does. We know what a car allows you, the driver, to do. Why would you want to buy a car in the first place? What is your basic need that you're looking to fulfill? Please type out in the comments. Tell us, why would you buy a car? What is that basic need you're looking to fulfill when you go buy a car? Evan, what is your example? Because I want to put that out as a question as well, to say, why would you buy that product that you are describing? Evan, go. And
my product is a hotel room, so it's accommodation. And the reason I talk about that, because that's, you know, very strong in my background. But remember, that is a service. So we're talking about physical products and services. So once we talked about the cars, we'll then get onto the hospitality piece.
No, I think we should talk about it concurrently. This is going to be fun. Okay,
Okay, you're on.
let's do this. We are on. So let's talk about why would you buy a car?
And concurrently, why would you want accommodation?
Why would you want to? What particularly in a hotel? So you're talking about a room, yes?
Yes, we are talking about a room.
Right.
That's what accommodation normally means.
Great. Oh, very nice. So a car is a mode of transportation to take you from point A to point B. You have absolutely taken something that I was going to say word for word. That is exactly what this is. You would buy a car because it is a mode of transport. So you want to get from point A to point B. So you go get a car. Yeah. What would you get a car? What would you say defines a car? Which is then brings us to, we're going into that generic product. But before we go there, let's go to Evan's question. So why would you get a hotel room? Why would you buy a hotel room?
So the core benefit for the motor vehicle is getting from point A to point B.
Yep.
The core benefit for essentially buying a hotel room for a night, well, we assume it's for a night, so it could be any number of reasons as well, because you could be there for a banquet, a function, or whatever. But accommodation overnight is, well, hopefully to have a good night's sleep, but certainly it more fundamentally it's about shelter. So it's shelter, you're safe for the night, and you've got a place to stay.
You're putting a roof over your head. As simple as
benefit.
that. Yeah. It's a core benefit. Now, what is a generic product when you were talking about a car?
I would like to think there's at least one seat and a steering wheel and some controls of the vehicle.
There's, that one. There is an engine.
Yep.
There is a steering wheel. There are 4 wheels. And so what we're doing everything works. And we're talking about a standard run-of-the-mill car. Yeah? You get in it, you shut the door, and you drive off, which will fulfill the need of going from point A to point B. Clear?
Totally.
Okay, good. So what then is a standard room that you would buy? What's a generic room? What should a generic room have? And hold on, those who are listening in, first of all, thank you for joining us. This is interesting that we're now talking about 2 different products from our 2 different perspectives, Evan and me. And I want to now ask you, what would you want as a generic product in a hotel room? You go and you book a hotel room. What would you like to see there? What is your standard room according to you? What would you like to see there? Type out over there and we'll continue this conversation. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us. This is the Power Hour with Dare to Scale. Oh, hey. And also the Power Hour with Dare to Scale. And we keep saying Dare to Scale. Did you also know? Yes, there is a book. Go ahead and get the book. If you haven't read the book already, do go and give it a read. It is everything that an entrepreneur would want to see, want to read in a book. It's almost like a handbook for entrepreneurs. So go ahead and get it. It's available online, or it's available if you're here in Dubai. It's available in your local bookstores. Go ahead and grab a copy and keep talking to us and send in your questions, your thoughts, your talking points on yourmentor@daretoscale.com. So. Totally. Now let's get back to business. Evan, what is your idea of a generic hotel room? And remember generic, I'm not talking about expected product. It's a generic product. There's somebody says a generic room should have a comfortable bed, air conditioning and attached bathroom. Basic amenities that one might need for the stay. Evan, is this a generic room or are we going a couple of levels higher? Talk to me.
I think it's a couple of levels higher in the sense that really you want obviously access to your room and ideally it's lockable. Obviously a bed's there. Ensuite bathroom would be nice. But, some older hotels may not have that. When I was doing work in Scotland many years ago, you still had the old bathroom down the end of the hall. So it was an older hotel. So, it need not necessarily be in the room, but basically you want a room that locks, a decent bed, a place that's secure that you can have a decent night's sleep.
Okay. And what then would
what we're
be?
talking about over here, air conditioning, all those things, that's become an
We'll
expectation.
we'll get there. We'll get there in a minute. Is it an expectation?
In
Maybe
my
not.
opinion,
Depends
it
on
is.
where you are.
Yeah. So how do
Depends
you?
on where you are.
So what's your expected product then for a car?
I'd like, so if it's a car, okay, so somebody else says a generic room should be clean with a bed, a washroom, and maybe a safe for your valuables.
So all of those things become expectations. Like the safe, you can stay in a hotel without the safe. So the
Yep.
expectation, and that's what we've become accustomed to looking for as a basic, or when I
Yep.
say basic, as a I don't know, minimum requirement as such.
Yep.
So
So
it's
basically,
all
we're raising the standards then.
we start exactly. So certain level of cleanliness, absolutely. I would expect to have clean sheets. I would expect to have a bed that doesn't have bed bugs and all that sort of stuff. Maybe
Seriously, bed
the
bugs?
carpet. Hey. If you go searching
this is
online,
funny.
you can find some terrible reports on some accommodation.
Put in the comments a big smiley face if you're laughing your head off like I am. Oh, this is so funny. I can't believe we're talking about bed bugs here. But yeah, sure.
Hey.
Yeah, that's an expectation. Yep. I get it.
I'm
Totally
saying
get
these
it.
things, and listen, in our household, the one who's actually laughing is actually not the one who would not be laughing at all.
I totally would not be. No, I would
So
be
again,
completely
it's
spinning and get
reasonable
the
to
whole world up.
expect.
Yeah.
Totally reasonable to expect a
Yeah.
decent bed that's clean sheets, clean towels, that sort of stuff, a clean bathroom for
Yeah.
crying out loud,
Yeah.
a shower, the drains actually being clean, all those kind of things. It
Oh
meets
my
your
God.
standards that you would have at home, So
You can
it's a good
totally.
standard.
I know, and I know you've spent a good nearly 3 decades in the hospitality industry, but now we're talking about clean drains. Wow. Okay. I'm going to move on to my cars.
Please do.
Thank you. Goodness me. I want to laugh, but I also want to continue. Bed bugs, as somebody says, a real problem if you're traveling on a budget. Yes. I'm going to move on from the bed bug conversation to cars. What would
You
what
get my
is,
point now?
yes, I do. What is the expectation when you buy a car? I'd like a seat where at least it's a cushioned seat. I'm comfortable in that seat. But before that, I would like a rear view mirror. I'd like 2 wing mirrors so I can see where I'm driving. I'd like a good strong body of the car so I'm safe. People in my car are safe. I'd like some airbags to keep me safe. Although 25, 30, 40 years ago, there were no airbags. I'd like a seatbelt. Again, there were no airbags. So as we are moving down the ages, as new innovations are put in place, we are raising that bar. We're raising the standard of what is an expectation. What is a basic expectation? So when I'm buying a car, I'd like to see these sort of things. That would be my expectation. Is that okay? Oh my God. So Urvashi says, funny but true, speaking from experience in youth hostels around during my uni
university.
days. Oh, goodness me. Okay, fine. I think we made the point with the bed bugs. I get it. Yes. Okay. Okay. Got it. In which case, I know we are. Yeah.
As you say, as we move down the ages, so to speak, or even just the decades or years, what was a generic product has been superseded by what used to be an expected product. So it's the standard is definitely increasing.
That's true. That is true. Absolutely. So in a car, would you agree? So type a yes if you agree that when you buy a car, you would want a good strong body, seat belts, an airbag or 2, preferably 2 or more.
Those have become generic.
They become generic. Yeah, exactly. That is true. Those have become standard now. But that's the expectation. I would like these sort of things. And then comes the augmented product. Oh, now let's pick up on what somebody has said earlier about the air conditioning. Is air conditioning in a car an augmented product, or is it a expectation now? Now, I say specifically air conditioning because of where we are, where we live. It could be a heater somewhere else.
Yeah, so the Middle East, yes, it's definitely an expectation you have air conditioning.
Yep.
And when you've lived here long enough, you become naughty where you might pop into the shops and leave your car running, have a second set of keys, lock the door, go and get something. So your car remains cool, right?
Yep.
But it is essentially an expectation. And interestingly,
It
all
is.
motor vehicles that come to, the Middle East, UAE specifically, they're
Yep.
all retrofitted. The air conditioning is actually not standard air conditioning. It's actually heavy duty to actually deal with the extreme conditions.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
again, it depends. Alaska, you want seat heating. Not pleasant without it.
Absolutely not pleasant without it. We're totally speaking from experience. You do want your car seats heated when in Alaska. It can get very cold. I can hear a cat meowing, Evan.
Yes, there's a little kitty cat. I'm going to chuck him out. Just 1 second.
Yeah, we have a guest on today's Power Hour with Dare to Scale. That is one of our cats who is now being unceremoniously chucked out. We are going to continue this conversation about fuel efficiency, AC, and safety as someone who is not a car person. Urvashi, I cannot believe you're not a car person. But yeah, that's true. Fuel efficiency. You want a decent engine in that car, AC, and safety as someone who is not a car person, says Urvashi. And now let's move on to, did we talk about the expectations in a hotel room?
Yeah, we did. Clean sheets, clean bits and pieces, and then we had the little discussion about the bed bugs and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
But moving on to the augmented sort of space, interestingly, in the hotel, it is about the added services, and that very much could be, I don't know, a concierge. You want to go to the theater, you can go down to the concierge and they can help you, get a ticket, get you to and from. There might be a hotel car that's available, those kind of things. And it's definitely that sort of next level. And that's where you now start talking about different levels of branding, So while you're defining your sandbox, this is one of the sort of considerations. At what level are you pitching your product? So what do you think the augmented product is for a motor vehicle?
I want to continue this conversation about your hotel room for a minute, Evan. I'm going to say having a hotel concierge or a car to drop a guest somewhere, is that an augmented product of the product that we're talking about, or is this an addition to the product? I want to be very, very clear about what we're talking about, and that's how I see it. Please drop in the comments if you disagree, or you have a very different opinion. Because to me, that is an additional, an add-on. It's not augmenting the actual product.
Okay. So in my previous life, I've dealt with some very high-end hotel chains, and one of them they discovered, interestingly, was having a motor vehicle was, I suppose, in a way expected for that particular brand. And this particular hotel that I'm thinking of was actually in New York. Mm-hmm. So being able to be driven to and from rather than taking the subway was something that was an expectation. What they felt
that's an augmentation of a product.
If I might continue, what they felt was an augmentation was it actually was one vehicle, which was a Maybach, and very, very high end. And I know it was a brand, but I'm just saying it's a very, very high end motor vehicle. What they discovered was it was not so much about that. They ended up getting two lesser vehicles. When I say lesser, meaning they were still sort of high end, but they ended up getting two for less than the price of the one. And it was more beneficial to the guests to have more vehicles available, at their disposal. And that, like I say, they were still high end and, definitely got them to where they wanted to go to in style, but more was better. So more was better than less. So the augmentation can change depending on, I suppose, the customer's opinion and that sort of thing as well.
It is, and there is a comment from Surbi over there, Evan, if you want to read out about what was augmented a few years ago. I'll let you read out that comment.
Let me just see which one.
Starts with, come to think of it.
There we go. Come to think of it, what was value added or augmented a few years ago has become basic today. That's true. Which begs the question, does the need of the customer constantly change? We talked about this, if not last time, the time before. Absolutely. And I forget, there was a podcast we'd done quite some time ago, late last year, I think it was. Customers' journey and expectations and needs are changing exponentially and changing obviously very, very rapidly, whereas businesses in a lot of cases are changing in a linear sort of manner. And that's where that sort of disconnect is. But totally, needs of the customer are constantly changing. They're
constantly evolving rather than changing, I suppose. Because
evolving. It's like I forget if it's not Boyle's law. I think that's to do with pressure and stuff. But basically, the rate of computers changing and the speed with which they work is exponential. So every 18 months, it's a huge leap and change. So expectation with mobile devices it's ridiculous now in a way. Even 10 years ago, you would never have conceived of what we have today, and those have become basic.
Yeah. And I now want to talk about. No, we were still talking about the augmented product, and I still have a bigger question about. While it's a brilliant example about what kind of luxury car is brought in to transport the customers. Is that an augmented product or is that an add-on? Because in my mind, that's a clear distinction, because you're still paying for the room. These are add-ons, but the room is still the room.
Yeah, no, everything is baked in, you're right. And when you say add-on, see, to me, your generic / expected, let's say bunch those together. That's where you expect to be. And again, it depends on the branding. So the example I gave was very high end, where you're paying a lot for other things like privacy. Nobody can just walk into that hotel without going past security and almost being vetted first. So while those fancy pants vehicles are outside at your disposal, other people can't actually come in either. So that's part of that augmented sort of space. But with the vehicle,
I disagree. Yeah, continue talking, but I know I'm interrupting because I disagree. I think we are digressing from the actual product.
Well, we're talking about an add-on. So what is an add-on? To me, that's an augmentation.
I'm still talking about the augmented product. So if we are talking about the hotel room, because that's what, as a guest in a hotel, that's what I'm really paying for. Everything else that the hotel chooses to do is adding to my choice of which hotel I go to, but eventually I'm still paying for the hotel room. It's got 4 walls, it's got a bathroom, it's got a bed. The augmented product to me would be maybe a nice TV, maybe a selection of channels I can watch TV on, maybe a working desk, because that is still enhancements of the basic product that I am buying. Type yes in the comments, please, if you get what I'm saying. And also tell us if you're thinking that I am digressing, because I'm really interested, because we're talking about a core product, and that core product is that car or that hotel room. So if we then look at a car, what is an augmented product if we are still keeping with the car? Maybe leather seats, maybe a great stereo, maybe video screens, hopefully not for the driver, but for the passengers at the back, because that somehow seems to be the thing to do. So this would probably, in my head, describe an augmented product. So we've gone from basic car with a seat and 4 wheels to now talking about a high-end product.
Yep.
So because we haven't even touched upon what a customer's experience is when you walk into a dealership. You get offered a drink, you get nice leather sofas to sit on, you get great service, and when you actually buy a car, maybe you get a box of chocolates or flowers and whatever else that a dealership would choose to do to add on. So it doesn't enhance the actual product, it enhances the experience.
Which is definitely augmented.
No, an augmented product is how, if that actual product is changing, the add-on is something which is in Philip Kotler's 5 levels. It is a potential product, which means it is something that's given in addition to the actual product to keep that customer coming back, to increase the customer loyalty.
Well, speaking of loyalty,
Yeah.
To me, potential, so in the hotel game, right? So the potential product in my mind is more about personalization. It's more than just an enhanced or an augmented product. It's more about you and your particular journey. So where a hotel remembers your favorite drink, they remember, I don't know, your spouse's birthday or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's beyond expected. And it really does more to bringing you back, to the hotel, particularly if you're a regular, if you're, a business traveler, for example. That could be one of the things you regularly stay at a hotel. They get to know you, really
Sure.
get to know you.
Sure.
And to me, it's more than just a loyalty program. I know you feel a loyalty program is basically a potential to keep you coming back, give you upgrades, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
To me, that's almost more like the augmented kind of space. And look, I feel that way because, like with frequent flyer points, oftentimes it's difficult to redeem those points. You might earn them, that's all great, but what's the point of them if you can't actually rock up and get a reward seat or something when you need it? And I know there's a lot to be said about the administration of it, but
exactly. So that's how that particular company is managing its potential product or its loyalty program. That doesn't take away from the fact that there is a loyalty program that is encouraging people to keep coming back. So to me, that is definitely an add-on. Let's take this for example. Let's look at a car. Okay, so what would be a potential product for a car? What would be something that'll make me keep going back as a buyer of a particular car? Maybe an insurance thrown in, or actually, it is a warranty or the service offered for the next 3 years. That'll keep me going back rather than going to somewhere else down the road to get my car serviced. So that to me is an augmented product.
Okay. So in terms of, this is a comment that's come in. So in terms of the service industry, an augmented product is to add to the overall experience of the customer. So brands use a product augmentation to provide the customers with additional value. It means the client gets the main product along with some perks at the same price. It helps companies get a competitive advantage, hence increase their market share. It's a win-win for both parties. Customers get extra benefits or upgraded service at the same price of a single product. So yeah, I think that probably makes sense. And again, as we go down the years, these things become more standard. Interesting.
They do become more standard. There's another comment that has come through. Hotels is more about the experience. Thus, the augmentation would be different to say cars, which is an actual product. The hotel room is an actual product. This is wonderful because Evan and I have been talking about this for a while now, and we have very strong views on what an actual product is. I know hotels are all about experience, and so is a car. That's why high-end luxury cars exist. It's an experience. a really car person would say, that is an experience. For me, driving a car, a high-end car, is an experience. You would totally hear this from someone who's driving a whatever, their dream car, for example. Evan, I know you're smiling because I know you're itching to dig into this. So
No, I think it's relative to how big people dream, and it's kind of interesting because it is about experience for sure, and physical product, and particularly services that are packaged as a product. As you say, it really is a product. It's some chunk of the marketplace that you're buying. So it definitely makes sense. And then there's levels within levels. And what's an add-on to you is an augmentation to me. It really is. We could be here for hours.
We could be.
We've got 15 minutes left. You're at the Power Hour Live. It's all about the core product, and we're talking about Kotler's 5 levels. There's the core benefit. There's your generic product, your expected product, an augmented product, and a potential product. And of course, Kotler, being an economist, uses all sorts of language that might confuse us, and that's exactly what's happening over here, because everybody has their opinion on what's augmented and what's standard. So it gets interesting.
No, it does. And thank you for bringing us on point, Evan, because the whole purpose of this discussion is to really put out those five levels of product out there and ask you, the listener, how would you package your product? Or how would you say your product is packaged right now? Do you recognize how your packages are designed? Do you recognize what is your core product? Do you recognize how you're enhancing the product? Do you recognize what are some of the add-ons that you're giving to keep the customer coming back? That is the whole point of this discussion. And yet we digressed from bed bugs to cars to everywhere in the world. So this is really interesting. I'm loving this conversation because we've had a lot of discussions with some of our clients that we coach, and it's for a founder of a business, for a business owner who is designing the product, selling the product, looking at it from their eyes. It opens up a whole new perspective when we talk about what does a customer look at it as. So when we are mentoring a client, usually in a group coaching scenario, Evan or I would play the role of a customer and look at it.
Sometimes a difficult customer.
Sometimes a difficult customer. But the customer is only difficult when you're not addressing the customer's requirements or the needs and the wants, which takes us back to the conversation last time with Survey to say, how do you even know your customer really well? That's why today we decided to. So there was a couple of different directions we could have taken today's discussion, from starting with really just talking about what do you do, what do you sell? Do you sell a physical product? Do you sell a service-based product? Have you packaged your products? Or the conversation that we went with, which is defining the different levels of a product. Or we could have gone down the value proposition map, which the value proposition canvas, Alexander Osterwalder's brilliant tool, which is out there, so simple yet so profound. Maybe that's what we talk about next week as well, or the next time, because that ties in really well with finding out what the customer's really pains are and the dreams are, and how does your product match up to that. So
and
really,
it's a wonderful segue as well, because as you say, we talked about the customer, we've talked about the what. And it really is about getting those together and finding where that sort of connection is. And again, it's about the customer. The hero is the customer. What is the result that they are looking for? It is.
I'm wearing this because I think there's a little bit of an echo going on. So I'm going to wear this and change. So that's absolutely true. So that's a great segue into what we're going to talk about next week, or the next time. So really, how do you define your own product. Send us your notes, send us your talking points, send us your thoughts on yourmentor@daretoscale.com. Evan, you were saying something?
Yeah. So one of the key pieces of the workbook that we do with clients is actually a product ladder.
Mm-hmm.
So while you have your core product, maybe this is where that augmentation comes in, right? Making a product that will actually suit the customer. So the thing is, your customer's at the center of like a wheel. You may have more than one product and that sort of thing, and you want to make it easy for that customer, if they want to go between products, if that's what they choose to do. I don't know, in our coaching space, you might have one-to-one coaching, you might have group coaching, you might have a community. So you might have more than one product, that sort of thing. So that's where your product ladder sort of comes in. But your core piece, what result are you addressing or giving, making possible for your customer? And that really is the key thing there.
That's true. And when you talk about a product ladder, if we just still keep with the car scenario, what is the entry level car? Is your product ladder the beginning of your product ladder? What's your entry level car that is affordable? It's economical to drive. It is a great safe car, and it's just something. It's an easy decision to make. And then you have your mid-level cars, and then you have your high-end cars, and then you have a specific purpose, cars for a specific purpose, say desert driving. So cars that are made to go dune bashing, for example. So that's my way of looking at the different product ladder or ladders, steps of a ladder in the product ladder. Evan, what do you think?
No, completely. And it's sort of, again, it goes back to needs and wants.
Yeah.
What the customer needs, what the customer wants, and at what point are they prepared to buy? So this whole matrix is sort of fluid in a way. But why we talked about the different sort of, if you will, categories of a product, whether it's a hotel room or a motor vehicle or a pen, is because depending on how a customer views it, matching that, and that's where we talk about the next time we're going to talk about the value proposition canvas. So how are you meeting the expectation or the result that the customer wants, and then speaking effectively? So
brilliant.
That's for next time. Next Power Hour is on the 22nd of September.
That it is.
So we look forward to seeing you 11 a.m. Wednesday, the 22nd.
11 a.m. UAE time, indeed. And that's a great scenario. And I think we're actually going to have a guest on that podcast. Podcast.
Power Hour. What's wrong with you?
Not a podcast, Power Hour. We're going to have a guest on the Power Hour. Look out for the announcement that will come on Wednesday next, and you will know who it is that we're going to be having this brilliant conversation with. Speaking of podcast, do also listen to the Dare to Scale show, where we bring brilliant entrepreneurs who are out there creating their magic in their own fields and elevating themselves, elevating the business to become the masters in their business. So keep listening to the Dare to Scale show as well. Thank you for joining us.
We talk a little bit about the book,
we do.
And some of the concepts in the book.
We do. And a large part of the Power Hour in the following episodes is really going to be on the 5 elements, the 5 basic building blocks of your business. We haven't even scratched the surface because we're still on Sandbox. And it is, while Sandbox seems like a very simplified concept, it really isn't. That's a core of how you go into defining your business model. So you get your Sandbox right and you get close to getting your business model right, because that's half the problem solved. Correct. Or half the problem identified, or half the screen opened. So yes, Evan.
Consider this. If you are providing the result to your customer, right?
Yeah.
Tick. They like you. They buy from people they like, all that sort of thing. So that's all good. You don't have to have especially when you're starting out, you don't have to have a fancy pants website. You don't have to have this, that, all the stuff that goes around. With some of the clients we work with, they get stuck in a lot of that detail. Oh, I must do this, I must do that, and people tell me I must have lots of content, and you can get stuck for years and actually do nothing. So the result is also for you and your business actually, servicing your customer, and if you're giving them the result and you've already got the that overall result happening for them, it's one of those things. You talk about loyalty, that customer will talk about you, right? And you can build up all the other bits and pieces, but it's all about result. And that's true. Why with the customer, the value proposition canvas, it's about focusing on the result for the customer. Cannot say that enough.
Very, very nicely summarized. That is actually brilliantly summarized. And with that, we bring today's Power Hour to a close. Thank you very much for joining, and thank you very much for participating in this hour filled with different opinions that both Evan and I were putting on the table. This was a fun conversation. Absolutely. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and we hope you enjoyed being part of this show as well today. This is the Power Hour signing off for this week, and looking forward to joining us again 2 weeks later with a guest. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Take care, be safe, and be good.
Bye for now.